Yeah, well, as you say, this is the last day of campaigning, but I'm not with the politicians, I'm with the people today. Two protests have converged. So basically, at the moment, we're now in the middle of anti-far right protesters. Ahead of them are protesters against the far left, so they're right-wing protesters who we were with earlier this morning. There were about a couple of hundred of the right-wing protesters saying that they want, for example, tougher crackdowns on migration, that they don't feel like the government's doing enough following a string of attacks involving foreign suspects. But then on this side, you've got probably 3 or 4 times the number of people on the streets saying that they're worried that Germany is going to go right. And this is because, as you were saying, that the far-right AfD party is currently polling second. So this, if they get that, would be an historic vote for them. Now, their leader says that they are not far-right. She claims that they're conservative. But I must point out that some branches of the AfD have been labelled as far-right extremists by the German authorities. But what we've seen here today is little flashpoints along the route, because, as I said, this group of anti-far-right protesters is much bigger than the far-right protesters. So when, along their march, they've sort of met up, there have been flashpoints, the biggest of which was just in the corner a few minutes ago, where we saw police keeping the two groups apart, riot police holding some of the protesters against the far right to the road, them extremely angry there. You can hear them now that they call these far right elements Nazis, something they deny, of course. They call them fascists. But the fact is that while the march here isn't of AfD members or politicians, there is a big debate about the direction in which Germany is going at the moment, and the fact that the AfD may poll second concerns a lot of people here because they believe that it's going in the wrong direction. Now, people who support the far right, and I've spoken to a lot of them, feel like the current government doesn't listen to them. They maybe feel like they don't recognise Germany anymore. A lot of the people in the crowd actually were young people, really disenfranchised, angry young people. What they're shouting now is everyone against fascists. But I think it's a really interesting point in Germany's history, because there's this agreement at the moment, because of the Nazi past, that says that no democratic party or none of the mainstream parties would traditionally go into coalition with the far right, which means even if the AfD comes second, that it's unlikely anyone will go into coalition with them. And some of the protesters in the far right group say, well, that's undemocratic. You're ignoring the voice of potentially a fifth of the country. They're saying if that happens, that they would go out onto the streets again and protest. But then you see this. You know, we were walking down, when we were walking with the group of far-right protesters, and there was a woman on her balcony shouting into the street, shame, shame. And it just shows you, really, the divisions that are opening up here in Germany. These, of course, are two groups with very specific points of view. This isn't every voter, but it does show you that there are divisions in the country here.